And a very good Thursday morning. This is the GSMC Baseball Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Kenneth Gruenfelder. And as always, it is great to have you guys today. We got a lot to talk about on the show, as we usually do. But before we start, I just want to remind you guys, take care of some business before we get into the topics that we are going to talk about. Is obviously make sure to go to streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip, and you can see that on the bottom of the ticker, to get your comments recognized. And also, for exclusive content, you can find us on patreon.com and look up GSMC Sports Network. So, as I said, we do have a lot to discuss on today's show. So starting off the show, we'll go through some the latest news and headlines surrounding Major League Baseball. Big stuff happened yesterday. Guys getting hurt. As I posted a short yesterday talking about one of those injuries. So we'll get into that. Then we will go into the second segment, and we will talk about should Major League Baseball switch over to robot umpires, because that's been a big thing, in recent years, and I'll get into that. And then in the third segment, we'll go over the scores from last night, look at the current standings like we normally do. Again, we're getting closer and closer to the playoffs, and there's spots still up for grabs, and actually, one spot was officially claimed, and that was the NL East last night. And then we will conclude the show by going over the power rankings that were released earlier this week. So that's going to be something I'm going to try to do each week, even though the season's pretty much almost over, is just go and talk about the recent power rankings, during at least one of the shows, each week, and we'll see how that impacts the postseason, because MLB releases them, so I'll just go over them and give my thoughts on them. So that is basically the rundown for today's show. So with that, let's get into our first segment, which is talking about the latest news and headlines surrounding Major League Baseball. So the big thing that came out for last night was, well, first of all, Max Scherzer, and I was going to try to use a graphic, but I was having some issues with that, and put, just to have something up, but I was having a little bit of issues. But that, just a small thing. I tried to paste over an image that I had in from the previous show, and for some reason it made the image that I was putting in much bigger, so I couldn't tap on it and minimize it, well, make it smaller to fit the screen. So and I was kind of pressed for time because I didn't want that to run into the beginning of the show here. So there's no graphics for today, but I'll make sure to have at least one for tomorrow. But yeah, so the big thing, obviously, is Max Scherzer getting injured. So he will miss the rest of the regular season, and the postseason is kind of unlikely, as it says, looking at MLB.com, MLB at bat. So he's going to miss the rest of the regular season with a low-grade strain of his right teres major muscle. Now, I was trying to do the short yesterday, and I was trying to memorize that, and I couldn't, so I just said a strain in his upper arm. But, yeah, so this is announced by their general manager, Chris Young, and, yeah, he was placed on the 15-day injured list, and it's possible, it's unlikely that he's going to pitch in the postseason. So he's pretty much done for the year. And honestly, it's the Mets made the right decision trading this guy, because if the Mets were going to try to add at the deadline and try to go for it, this would have been a huge blow for them. But this is a huge blow for the Rangers, and the Rangers look bad making this trade. because this is a team that's trying to make the postseason, and they're actually playing some pretty good baseball right now. But this is a huge blow for them, and they just can't catch a break with getting veteran pitchers. They signed Corey Kluber. They traded for Corey Kluber. They signed Corey Kluber a few years ago, and he pitched like an inning, and then he was out. And then you go out and you get DeGrom. DeGrom's constantly in and out, and then he's out for the rest of the year. He's going to get Tommy John. And you had Evaldi who was hurt, but now he's back. So and now you got Max Scherzer, who's now going to miss the rest of the regular season, and that was supposed to be kind of DeGrom's replacement. So, it really stinks for the Rangers. However, they have won 5 in a row now, and right now they hold the playoff spot. And guys like Nathan Evaldi and Jordan Montgomery and Dunning, they got to step up and propel this team to the playoffs. They still got a good lineup, but it's really a tough blow for them, even though Max Scherzer really wasn't pitching his best. So let's kind of go through actually Max Scherzer's numbers. And he was one of the guys that I actually forgot to mention when I was going over trades. I don't think I mentioned him within that segment, but there was a lot of stuff going on. We had Wi-Fi go out in the middle of the stream. We had my dad cleaning up the house during the stream as well. So there was a lot going on yesterday. So Max Scherzer with the Rangers is most likely going to finish the year. So he finished with 13 wins on the season. He finished with a 4-2 record, 3.20 ERA. So I mean his numbers aren't terrible, but especially against the Astros, that was a start that the Rangers, that was a game the Rangers really needed, and he didn't deliver. But opponent's batting average was down to 174, and the WHIP was slightly below 1. So I mean, like his numbers weren't bad with the Rangers, but this could be the last time we see Max Scherzer pitch. It's possible, but we'll just have to wait and see on that. But that is a big blow for the Rangers. But they're playing good, and I keep saying this, but it really is going to come down to who's hot at the right time, because you're seeing, I mean, even in the National League too. Like I was talking about, the Reds and the Marlins. One of those two teams. Then the Diamondbacks got hot. The Marlins were hot at one time. It's really all going to come down to with the wild card race. It's really going to come down to who is hot at the right time. And right now the Rangers are hot, 5 in a row. And I expected the Blue Jays, and I didn't realize this was a 4-game set. Right now they've taken the first 3 games against the Blue Jays. So right now the Blue Jays are the team that's scuffling right now, and they got to get their act together if they're going to want to make the playoffs. Because if they don't make the playoffs, I mean, that's just, I don't even know what to say at this point. I mean, that's again another year of them falling short. But I mean, they made it last year, but they choked against the Mariners. Notice how I didn't screw up that time with Marlins and Mariners. But yeah, so the Max Scherzer thing, that was kind of the biggest deal yesterday, to come out of yesterday. Another thing, so the Astros had a no-hitter going, and that fell 2 outs shy. I mean, listen, the Astros have done a lot of good things. They had a combined no-hitter last year against the Yankees. But yeah, they actually got themselves back together. A's got 2 runs in the 9th inning against them. But yeah, so I guess they almost had another combined no-hitter, from what I'm understanding. Yeah, so it was almost a combined no-hitter. Presley's the one that gave up. He has the 2 earned runs tacked onto his name. So yeah, so that was another thing. But the Astros, they get back on the right track, and they beat the A's, who for some reason they have been struggling against. I really don't understand why. And then I guess the big news as well, the Braves, they've won their 6th straight NL East title. So that was wrapped up last night. They did that in Citizens Bank Park against the Phillies. So that's the first team to clinch their division, which I think I talked about earlier in the week. That was going to get done at some point this week, and that's exactly what happened. So, and they're going to finish with the best record in baseball most likely. And they're going to have home field throughout the playoffs, and that's huge. That is huge. But we'll just have to see. I mean, this team is very good. This team is a juggernaut, as it says in the article on as I'm looking on MLB, that the headline is Juggernaut Braves. So, again, I mentioned it a couple times. Can this team make it this year? And is it could it be another year where another team gets hot and knocks them off? Right now, I don't know because they're just too good, but we'll have to wait and see, as I like to say. But yeah, so the Phillies, they, as it says here, take a step forward as Reds take over third wild card spot. So right now the Reds have that spot. It's always changing. It really is always changing with that, and that's what makes it exciting. And another thing too is so MLB put out an article that said the best start to an MLB career ever is happening right now, and that is the rookie for the Toronto Blue Jays, Davis Schneider. He is off to the greatest start in MLB history. And I was like, okay, but it's not hyperbolic. So right now, he's hitting 370. He's got a 13-15 OPS, and this is the best that anyone's ever done in 25 games. And they also have listed some of the best like OPSs through their the first 25 games all time. So you have below Schneider, you have Mandy Brooks for the Cubs in 1925. You have Alvin Davis of the Mariners in 1984. Austin Kearns, who played for the Reds at that time in 2002, he had a 1182 OPS. Rhys Hoskins, 2017 for the Phillies, he had an 1169 OPS. An 1165 OPS George Scott had with the Red Sox in 1965. Pujols, he had an 1149 OPS in 2001. Willie McCovey, 1959 for the Giants, 1140. And Mitchell Page, 1977 with the A's, 1137. So that's there's some notable names on there. So that's good company to be with. But no matter how good this guy does, if the Blue Jays don't make the playoffs, it's not going to matter. But he really has, he's been very good. I haven't really been paying that much attention to him, but, this article puts it in great perspective what he's been doing. But we can actually dive into his individual stats if I can pull them up. But yeah, he is having a very good, he's been great since they've called him up. So, but you know what? Listen, the Blue Jays, they got to, they got to start playing better because right now they are on the outside looking in. So right now, the batting average is down to 353. He's got 8 home runs, 20 RBIs, and that's down to now 1257. But still, very good numbers in the limited amount of time, in 85 at bats. So, and 24 years old. Second base, listen, Blue Jays are going to need him because right now, like I said, they're kind of scuffling at the moment. So, but yeah, and then also another quick thing as well. This is another thing I forgot to mention. So, Sandy Alcantara of the Marlins, he has a UCL sprain. So right now, the MRI revealed that. So he's taking it day by day, and that's that's a big loss for the Marlins right now. They right now are on the outside looking in as well. And right now, the Diamondbacks and the Reds are tied for that third wild card spot, and they're a half game back. And the Giants are a half game back as well. So that race is really just, it's really been just crazy. And it really is gonna come down to that last week. Might come down to the last day of the regular season. So yeah, that's pretty much it with the main headlines and latest news, surrounding Major League Baseball. And, so with that, we're going to take our first break of the show. And then when we come back, I'm going to talk about whether or not Major League Baseball should switch to robot umpires. So we will be right back. Stick around. And we will be right back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast.